have idea? Oh, that's the spirit. Let's go child labor. Let's go child labor.
Child labor's back in a big way. Child labor in the totally not evil USA. Hey, kids, if you know what's good, you'll sacrifice your childhood to save the economy with child labor. What do we know? Minimum wage has been held back for decades. The workforce is pushing back. What do we know? Employers pay low and say no one wants to work anymore like they always have. There was a 37% rise last year in child labor law violations. So several states, well, no, they loosened regulations on child labor.
Greetings. This is the Long in the Boot podcast, the podcast coming to you from the heel of the boot of Southwest Louisiana. I am your host, G Long, and across the way, of course, is Deb.
Hello, partner.
Yeah, you're wave. What are you doing, leaning way back?
I was relaxing. I was chilling. I was still listening to the song. I'm glad you didn't preview it for me, and I hadn't heard it. It was delightful.
Well, thank you very much.
I enjoyed it.
And if you'd like to get a hold of the Long in the Boot podcast, it's longintheboot@gmail.com. The number 337-502-9011, and the website is longintheboot.com.
There
we go. Wow,
all right,
got it all out
this time. It's going to be a good day.
Now you might have noticed a theme there at the beginning of the podcast today. And, of course, this is in honor of Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. Although, as it turns out, I've discovered other states in my push to know
when you
more.
lose that many immigrants who have been working.
Well, I didn't know that children as young as 12 in Iowa can now work in slaughterhouses.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to lose some digits there.
But anyway, Florida has announced that because the immigration enforcement is taking so many of their important workers away, that they've come up with a solution. And, of course, that solution
are our kids.
Our kids, child labor.
Well, little Jimmy's got F's in school, so he's really not contributing to that. So we might as well find something for him to do.
That's right. They are pushing so that 14-year-olds could work overnight shifts without a break, even on school nights. That's right. They were going to take away their breaks, too.
Like 15-minute breaks.
It says a bill that progressed this week through the Republican-dominated state Senate seeks to remove numerous existing protections for teenage workers and allow them, in the Florida governor's words, to step into the shoes of immigrants who supply Florida's tourism and agriculture industries with dirt cheap labor.
So
they're not even hiding it.
And are they going to continue the dirt cheap price? I mean, or are they going to pay the kids a living wage?
DeSantis. What's wrong with expecting our young people to be working part-time now? That's how it used to be when I was growing up, well, DeSantis said at an immigration forum.
Okay, I'm going to give DeSantis that. At 15, I was working at Pit Grill, right, 3 to 11. So
were you working at 2 o'clock in the morning?
No, well, unless I had to stay over. And as far as that break thing, that's bullshit anyway. Nobody gets a break at work for most part.
And there's nothing in the bill that says part-time, by the way. It will permit unlimited working hours without breaks for 14 and 15-year-old kids who are schooled at home or online.
Oh, see, I told you if they weren't contributing at school, so they just made it homeschooling.
And it will remove the current prohibition that prevents employers from requiring 16 and 17-year-olds to work more than 6 days in a row.
Oh, my God. Okay, well, let's examine this for a minute. I'm a homeschool parent, and they're giving me X number of dollars a year to homeschool my kid, and now I can send him out to work. I can get a check from the state to educate my kid, and then I can educate him by sending him into the workforce and learning what it's like in real life.
Well, hey, Republican Jay Collins says, hey, this is an issue of parental rights, and how dare you try to take a parent's rights away to make their kid work?
Yeah. I want freedom, baby. And I want 2 incomes out of 1 kid. Hey, wow. What if you got 3, 4 of working age?
Yeah, right. You could clean up.
Oh man.
Maybe we'll just make more babies.
All right, community. Here you go. I'm money making tip. There you go.
Have babies.
And well, that is a necessity anyway right now.
Currently in Florida, their workforce, the Florida workforce, is 27% immigrant. Wow. So 1/4 of all workers in Florida.
Okay, but now you got to ask the legal status.
Now remember, they want them dirt cheap.
Yes, I know.
So we're going to have to make sure that we're not paying the children full wages. After all, they're children. They shouldn't get paid like adults.
Because they live in your house and you pay.
They shouldn't get the big bucks of $7.25 an hour.
Well, parents are going to have to fight back for that because I want my kid to make $10 an hour, not $5. Okay.
Well,
okay. So
if we're going to exploit workers, we should start with the children.
Yes. Well, again, that's an education. You want a life lesson? There it is.
And there is also a Republican bill in the U.S. government.
You got it. Say it. Spit it out.
That would allow employers to pay interns and apprentices less than minimum wage.
Oh wow.
Yep.
So we go to a place where we're willing to pay college athletes as a wage, right? Because we finally let that go, and now you can be a college athlete and make money.
Well, as long as the college gets a cut.
Well, yeah,
it's sharecropping.
Somebody has to.
It's sharecropping. Call it what it is.
Somebody has to be the pimp.
Somebody has to take advantage of these people.
Well, of course, but they're at least making something now. We're ass backwards.
You think?
Yeah, the country's just ass backwards. Okay.
Yep.
Well, there you go. I thought it was an important aspect to touch on, though, because it is controversial.
Well, it should be. I mean,
you should have questions there. But I did not realize that they were limiting that to homeschool. So public school kids still have a protection?
No. They'll not. It's to make sure that everybody can work.
So they're including the homeschool and the charter school religious.
Because if you're going to have public school kids missing school because they worked a graveyard shift, then everybody should be able to miss
all
school.
Across the board.
Yeah.
For equality.
Please, sir, may I have some more?
All right, Oliver. Way to go.
And so anyway, and of course, one more thing, and then we'll get out of the politics altogether. Last night was yesterday was the vote for the 4 amendments in Louisiana.
Yes, and if
you're hearing this on Wednesday, so you already know this. But
you know the results, but it was a big deal in Louisiana because once again, the government was trying to fuck us. I just said it.
Bad words.
No, well, when talking about them, they bring me to that now.
That's true.
It's an enraging thing. And then to say
what the governor said
after the fact. Okay, well, back it up. And talk about the real issue, which is Amendment number 2. Because
Amendment number 2 was the one they were telling teachers, hey, you're not going to get a raise if you don't vote for this.
The day before the vote.
The problem with Amendment number 2 was they packed in 9 different issues into one amendment, which, by the way, is illegal in Louisiana. An amendment proposition is supposed to deal with one issue and one issue only.
And they challenged it because of that and the language.
And the judge threw it out.
The judge threw it out. All right.
So that means the judge obviously has been purchased by the governor.
Is that what we're going to just claim now for everything that we don't get
Why not?
Our way?
Why
we're
not?
just going to use that.
Hey, if it's good enough for the president, it's good enough for me. Okay, so Amendment 2 was a chance to, according to Jeff Landry, to lower the maximum income tax rate, to double tax deductions for residents over 65, create a government growth limit, provide a permanent pay raise for teachers, maintain homestead exemption and protect religious organizations, keep more tax dollars in local communities, allow for the elimination of the inventory tax, and protect against special interest tax breaks. All was in Amendment number 2.
So you counted 9.
There's 9 issues.
And some of the issues I agree with.
Yeah.
Making our state more competitive in the business market.
Losing the way he did, though.
Yes.
I want to read a quote from good old
Is this
Jeff
the
Landry.
Quote from the night before where he threatened teachers?
No.
Okay.
This is after the fact. First of all, he's blaming.
Well, wait, but the night before the election, the day before.
He threatened.
He told teachers, be clear, this is a raise for you.
Which it wasn't. It was a continuation of what we're making.
Which
again,
means,
that's the definition of raise again.
If Amendment 2 did not pass, we are not guaranteed that $2,000.
That's right.
We may have just cut our pay by $4,000
But we protected school money by doing that.
And it was worth doing that.
And that was well worth it because we have, what's this thing that politicians don't have? Principles. Yeah, principles.
All right.
So anyway, this is a quote, by the way. He's blaming George Soros and far left liberals
I thought he blamed us today.
for pouring millions of dollars into Louisiana with propaganda and lies about Amendment 2. No, they didn't.
No, they did not.
They didn't.
And if they did, you know what? I went and read
Millions
both sides.
of dollars?
Yeah, I went and read both sides.
Well, if he poured
decision.
millions of dollars into Louisiana, then wasn't he employing people?
Yeah. Didn't
so-
the advertisers make a fortune?
Anyway, he said, quote, although we are disappointed in tonight's result, we do not see this as a failure. We realize how hard positive change can be to implement in a state that is conditioned for failure.
We are conditioned to fail. Actually, our politicians have conditionally failed us for decades.
Right.
So we've just become used to it. Is that it?
And the thing is, if they had taken all those issues in Amendment 2 and made them
And
each
divided them
individual,
up. Let us vote on each one.
it would have changed the vote completely.
It absolutely would have.
And so there you go. But that's our governor.
And what he thinks of us.
Yes.
As a constituency. Well,
one might say he's almost a populist.
We have,
except he's not.
We have my computer is
it getting glitchy?
It wants me to put in a password and I have to do it now. So
Password for what?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't want to use a one-time code. Go away. How about it? Let's just close you out, bitch. Okay. Sorry.
My goodness.
Well, I was
somebody has
I was
a
frustrated. It's the talk about Landry and how he it's so they're disrespectful to the citizenry.
Who clearly understood exactly what was going on
Yes.
and voted appropriately.
Yes, and we voted appropriately because I would
And some of the other amendments, like the one that dealt with making young kids even more susceptible to adult laws. So,
yeah,
the
juvenile
and the special courts.
Special courts.
Yeah,
and
all of it was nonsense.
See, it sounded like government growing as opposed to shrinking.
course.
So what are we doing? So Louisiana said no.
Yeah.
Because they went and read.
And not just a little.
No.
It was overwhelming.
Yeah, it was
60% to 30% roughly.
It was a mandate.
It was a real mandate.
Yes, I think and that's how it's supposed to work.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So
Good
enough
on you
about
people.
politics this podcast.
Yes, because it came to my, I'm
it
surprised.
came to our attention.
Well, I'm surprised that nobody last time actually said anything. The listeners,
Now, even though in the past week I've been called, crazy, hateful, loony left liberal, that was my favorite. We're not going to address that, except for the people who said I'm hateful. And no, I love our government when it's working properly, and I love our country.
Well, I love the
But I'm going to
idea
use
of
the
how
Mark
it
Twain
should.
quote, which
Okay.
is, a patriot loves his country all the time
But
and loves his government when it deserves it.
there you go.
There you
When
go.
they're working for you, there are more of us than there are.
They work for us. They
Can't
work
say it
for
enough.
us. They work for us.
All right.
All right. So enough about that. We thought this week we might actually talk a little bit about some
Well, I thought it
history
was
stuff
time-
that we
but
ran into.
We need to go off topic for politics because, it's just overwhelming everything. So
It really is. And so some of the stories that came out were really interesting. And I thought, well, I would pass these. We thought we would pass these stories
what do you
on.
want to do, the archaeological, or do you want to start with my rabbit hole at school?
We can do rabbit hole.
Because it doesn't connect to the others.
It's true. It
so
doesn't.
if we want to keep on thinking.
And it's a little more recent, so we'll go backwards.
It is. It's 100 years, right?
More or less.
1925?
Yeah.
2025. So 100 years ago. All right. So it is currently spring, which means.
And everybody will have something. Everybody will have something
Rude.
to do with this.
Well, yeah, of course they will.
Because people often walk.
And they drive.
Yes, right.
So we are both victim and aggressor.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
You did mean to interrupt. You always do that.
Okay, I did it on purpose. I admit it. And I did it willingly and with malice aforethought.
Malicious intent. All right. Can we proceed? So it is spring, and at school.
No, go ahead.
What that means for me
No,
in
continue,
my world
please.
is The Great Gatsby. So despite what you may think of the book, it's not a love story.
Sucks.
All right, you can have your opinion. I do like it for the history. And then I always get to connect to you guys in your American history class because they've done the 20s and they already have some prior knowledge, but they're looking at it from your knowledge as a historic.
As I fill their heads with liberal nonsense.
As a historic, decade of our timeline. Right. And for me, we're looking at it for what we are today as a society. I truly believe really blossomed in the 20s. During that period of growth and invention, right? So we got cars, we got billboards, we got magazines, we got jazz, we got marijuana.
Yeah.
We got so much that we have today. So 100 years later, we're looking at it backwards saying, this is why we are where we are. So billboards, right?
Sure.
All of a sudden, you've got all these products. Credit for
Lawyers.
the first time. Lawyers. No, it was everything. It was advertising the magazines, the washer and the vacuum. Soap. And
stop stinking.
That's it.
Quit stinking.
Hygiene. You don't have to smell this way. The advertising is hysterical.
Get some Lysol and clean that thing.
We've already touched on that. We have touched on that.
Every day.
So the aspect of cars, because cars are such a big part of life in the 20s and part of the industrial.
Now, would these be fossil fuel burning cars or electric cars?
Yes, fossil fuel.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
The way God intended.
That's right.
All right. So the kids were looking at pictures. We're talking about the numbers of cars then versus, now, I guess. But how many were bought because of credit, becomes a thing.
Credit, yeah.
And I tell the kids, well, a lot of people really died, pedestrians especially, because of cars. And they just start laughing. They think it's hysterical because how could you not get out of the way? So, we begin a rabbit hole in class, and I find this story called The Invention of Jaywalking.
Right. And yes, and so in the Wayback Machine.
This is the story of how in the 1920s, the auto industry chased people off the streets by waging a brilliant psychological campaign.
That's right. They're going to get you off the streets.
Yes. First it's the numbers and mainly children. Lots of children. I lost my numbers. Did you read my story, or are you just like winging it on me?
What? No, I read it.
Oh.
I was fascinated by some of the pictures too.
Oh, the posters?
Well, the streets in cities.
Well, but we've seen those images before and just hadn't really
considered how many.
That since man have created the wheel, there have been roads and people have stood on them.
Yes.
They have done business in them. They have danced in them.
It is only in the last 120 years that roads were used for something other than standing on or allowing your horse to pull a cart.
Yes, exactly. And so people would do business. Kids would play in the street.
We played in the streets growing up.
Of course it was. You were in a suburb.
Yep.
So it was just ingrained in people, and that was the fact. But then I said to my kids, no, first, the cars then were heavy. You got to deal with that issue. And they're going up to 45 miles per hour. There's no traffic laws.
No, and there were no lines.
Exactly. I had one kid, he's like, so you're saying they didn't know which side of the street to be on? Exactly. So pedestrians were at a risk. Approximately 12,155 pedestrians were killed in accidents in 1920. Fatalities per 100,000 population was like 11.5%.
Well, in a time when the population was not nearly as high. But
in
1920 alone, 200,000 people killed by cars.
Mostly in cities of 25,000 or more, but still.
But yeah, well, that's where you would find the cars.
And a lot of them children, a lot of them.
And people were... Well, they were furious.
Yes, people were angry.
How dare these cars come onto our streets and harass the pedestrians this way?
That's it.
The picture of the newspaper clipping, nation roused against motor killings. Secretary Hoover's conference will suggest many ways to check the alarming increase of automobile fatalities. And literally the car is being driven by death and he's just running over people.
Exactly. And the mother holding the infant, dying baby.
Or the other one, Was Daddy hurt much?
Yes.
I mean, this was serious business.
Absolutely.
Let me see. Where's the quote here from 1923? Oh, here we go. A governor, I'm assuming Missouri because it's the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. This dreadful slaughter must be stopped. If necessary, regulations severe and searching enough to do it must be adopted and enforced. If reasonable safety of life and limb can only be held by impairing the motor car's efficiency, the motor car will have to pay that price.
That's it.
There you go. Milwaukee had a safety week competition to draw the best poster of the dangers of automobiles, and the winner showed a grief-stricken woman holding the bloody corpse of her child. Oh, my God, that's the winner right there. Keep the kiddies off the street.
That's it. Well, people, it
blood
got
drenched
to 'em.
indeed.
You see it enough, you hear it enough. Everybody, 200,000 people, everybody knew somebody that had been killed.
1/3 of all traffic deaths were children, and half of those kids were killed on their home block.
Yes, on their own block.
So right out in front of their house.
Because they were just playing outside.
Man, that's ridiculous.
It is. So they had to do something.
Well,
Besides a terrifying campaign to stop it, they had to make a law.
but wait, it's the view of Americans towards car drivers.
Oh, yes.
Car drivers were seen as selfish cretins who sociopathically risked slaughtering their fellow Americans just so they could get to a destination more quickly. Few pedestrians respected cars. Cities installed crosswalks, but people ignored them. When police officers in Kansas City tried to keep women out of the streets, women used their parasols on the policemen.
Poked at them. You get back.
And in 1924, sales began dropping.
Yes, 12% of car sales, and because people had a negative view of cars.
So how do you do it?
Yeah.
The automobile companies had a way. Convince pedestrians that traffic accidents were all their fault.
It's all your fault, and you can change that.
So there you go. And the invention of jaywalking.
And then they had to have an advertising campaign for that. See, this is a money-making endeavor, and it's a sociological experiment. Can we control the masses? Can we shift an entire attitude? And of course they did. So the 20s was nothing but playing with marketing strategies.
And the first thing to do was, of course, create a term for it.
Yes. And a jay at the time was like a country bumpkin.
A rube.
Yes. And so then they started playing on that. You don't want to come to the city and look like a rube. You don't want to be a jay. What kind of, they had some other words. Do you have the other words?
A bumpkin, a rube. That's the
I don't actually have the story in front of me.
Hayseed.
Yes, don't be a hayseed. And nobody wanted to.
No,
you don't want to look like that. You're in the big city now, man.
Don't be a jay walking around.
It's a hustle and bustle kind of world. So no.
And so people want to be cool. So they don't want to be.
So they start publishing posters and handing out little cards that have a picture of a street, and they have a little serpentine, like a dotted line that shows you don't do this, don't serpentine in the middle of the street.
Well, first they gave lots of money to newspapers.
Yes, of course they did. Well, advertising again.
And so it's got the bumpkin, the country rube, walking right in front of a car. It's coming down the road. Ain't Brooklyn wonderful?
Yes, it is. So they trained everybody essentially, and car sales went up.
Boy Scouts
Yes.
got the Boy Scouts in, handing out cards to pedestrians. The Kiwanis Club did the same thing. The little card shows you how to cross, which meant, of course, cross at the crosswalk.
Yes, don't be a rube. So we were trained. This is how cultural norms happen, right? So we begin to know that you're not, and you can get a ticket for jaywalking.
You sure can. You still can, too.
Yes.
I like some of the things the cities did to teach pedestrians that it was their job to watch out for cars and not the other way around. So I guess if we're in a car, we don't have to look for people. Right?
We don't have to watch for it. It is on you.
They hired clowns to perform in safety parades.
Yes, so that you didn't want to be a clown.
In New York, a parade, they had a clown that went down the street followed by a car, getting rear-ended by it over and over again the entire length of the parade.
Yes, he just kept getting bumped, so he'd look like an idiot.
Yeah, and he was a clown.
And everybody laughed, and ultimately we were trained.
Yeah.
And it gets passed down by generation. It's just part of the cultural things that you learn as a kid growing up in America, right? If you're in the street, you got to get out of the way of the car.
Yep.
What are you doing? You playing in the street as soon as the car comes, everybody screams car and you get out of the road.
That's right. And then by the time you roll through the 30s and 40s and 50s and they start doing studies of traffic flow so they can build roads and stuff, they don't even include pedestrians in those studies.
Well, no, you shouldn't be on the road.
Yeah. What are you doing? Why are you walking on the road?
Cars are there. They're dangerous. You need to get away. Safety first, man. Safety first.
But think about this in the modern age, though. How you can employ the same trick. You evade responsibility for your product by claiming that it's user error.
Well, cigarettes.
Cigarettes is one.
Right. If you choose to do this, you could die.
It's your fault. Alcohol, same thing. Cars that catch on fire, same thing.
Well, buyer beware, and you assume the responsibility.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I was kind of raised like that.
You should have known not to buy that Pinto. It was a piece of shit. It's your fault it blew up.
Oh, the Pinto?
The Pinto.
Oh, I thought
Ford Pinto.
You said Pinta.
No, I didn't. I said Pinto.
Audience, he said Pinto.
She's wrong.
The first time you said Pinto.
But notice what I didn't say.
I don't know.
I didn't say Tesla.
You're not allowed.
Well, I know. That's why I said Ford Pinto.
It's a politic-free zone.
Well, I don't know about all that.
Okay.
But anyway. so
there you go. I think it was an interesting sociological experiment. And
I was upset about one part of
today.
the story we read, which was a lie. This is a quote from the story. Car companies create huger and huger vehicles.
Oh, I did not read that era.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I did not read that.
Huger and huger?
Yeah, okay.
But of course, car companies are creating huger and huger vehicles, creating an arms race where individual owners feel they basically have to get a massive vehicle so they'll feel safe in the face of everyone else's huge rides. So the cars just keep getting bigger and bigger
and more massive. Well, did you read the very end of the article after the writer signs off? He has a quote and then he signs off, and then there's this statement. This grim little tale resonates far beyond cars, by the way. In our contemporary age, many firms employ very much the same trick of evading responsibility for their products by claiming it's our fault.
It's like you read my mind.
Social networks like Facebook and Twitter this is old. Facebook and X craft their feeds precisely to reward hot emotionality and anger, and then claim to be baffled while so many users are angry and hotly emotional.
They could shut up.
Online services require us to cough up endless personal data and then say, oh, it's okay, nobody cares about privacy. You can tell because they always keep on inviting us to their info, giving us their info. Car companies create huger and huger vehicles,
there it is,
creating an arms race where individual owners feel they basically have to get a massive vehicle so they'll feel safe in the face of everyone else's wastefully huge rides.
I just said that.
So now we're just jaywalking all over the place, it seems, he says.
Yeah, well.
Thank you, Clive Thompson. It was an enjoyable article.
I'm going to go jaywalk on the interstate. Yeah, that's what we need to do.
No, we will not. That was my rabbit hole. Yeah. And then while searching for that, because the kids, we enjoyed that in class, we found some archaeological
well, the big one, the cool one, at least the one I thought was really amazing, was about the city of Venice.
The one, yes.
Because Venice, I've always assumed that Venice was built on like concrete piers or something like that.
And if you go to Venice,
or that it was on the ground.
I'm sure that's part of the tour. Yeah,
they flooded the
how
city.
They built that stone underneath. I don't know. I
didn't know. Well, it turns out that the city is actually basically sitting on an upside down forest.
Yes, and massive.
And the city is 1,600 years old.
Yes.
And it's built on the foundation of millions of short wooden piles pounded in the ground with their tips facing downwards.
They just hammered trees into the earth.
Yes.
And put buildings on top of them.
They used oak, alder, pine, spruce, elm, and of course, the larch.
The larch.
Lengths ranging between 11 feet and down to less than 3 feet.
Depending on the
and
height
they're
you
holding
need.
up stone palazzos and bell towers and have been for centuries.
In water.
In water. And they're still there, and they still seem to be work. And here's the thing. Concrete and steel is designed to last for 50 years.
Yes, that was one of the most interesting parts I saw is an engineer talking about that, right? That you provide a 50-year guarantee for a job when you design, a building for somebody.
But I like the builder.
Oh, the guy in Israel that was going to build that temple in Israel, and they wanted a 500-year guarantee. So he calls his boss.
Boss like, yeah, go ahead.
We're not going to be here.
We're not going to be here. Who's he going to sue?
Sign the contract. 500 years. Don't be absurd. But yet here we are, 1600 to now.
Well, so the Venetian piles technique, the reason they're really studying it now is because, one, it's such a unique, there's no other place anywhere.
No place on the earth does this.
No one is exactly sure how many millions of piles there are under the city, but there are at least 14,000 tightly packed wooden poles in the foundations of the Rialto Bridge alone.
Just that. 10,
just the bridge.
10,000.
And there are 10,000 oak trees under the San Marco Basilica, which was built in 832 AD. Still there.
And we think 50 years. Ooh.
Yeah. And most people in the city don't even know that's how it works.
That's what they just live.
And the way they did it, the way they placed those piles, men with hammers.
But they had their own songs. They would sing their songs.
They're called battapali, and that means pile hitters.
Pile hitters. So it was a serious job. Man, can you imagine the shape those men would have been in?
Oh, right.
Just doing that all day long.
And what's cool is their hammers look like the same kind of things you go buy to stick like T-posts in the ground.
Yeah.
They're no different. They're just bigger.
Yeah, much, and they're naturally grown.
And they would
forest.
Hammer the piles down as deep as they could, each individual tree. They would hammer it down as deep as they possibly could, starting on the outer edge of a structure and moving towards the center.
To the middle.
Driving 9 piles per square meter in a spiral shape. And then the heads were all sewn off level.
Yeah, you level it.
Which is how I build.
That's still how you do it now.
Yeah, I don't try to make things level at the top.
It is actually, Venice isn't the only city that relies on wooden pilings. Part of Amsterdam is also partially built on wooden piles because, water.
Well, sure, but
they go all the way until they reach the bedrock, and they work like long columns or legs.
But it is still quite unique.
It is.
That all this stuff, and the thing is, these things are not sinking in general, except in places where the building itself is so small that it's actually putting too much pressure in one spot.
So they do better with the larger ones where the weight is dispersed over a larger area.
Right.
That kind of makes sense.
And it says the principle is based on the idea of reinforcing the soil by sticking in as many piles as possible, raising substantial friction between the piles and soil. What's clever about that is you're using physics. The beauty is that you're using the fluid nature of soil to provide the resistance that holds the buildings up.
That actually does.
It's hydrostatic pressure. Wow. And so the soil grips the piles if enough are inserted densely into one spot. And it was first mentioned by a Roman engineer in the 1st century named Vitruvius. Romans would use submerged piles to build bridges, which were always close to water. But it turns out these friction bridges exist in China. The Aztecs used them in Mexico City until the Spanish came and tore them all down and built their cathedrals on top. And like the guy said, the Aztecs knew how to build their environment better than the Spanish, who now have huge problems with metropolitan cathedrals sinking unevenly.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah. They messed up.
That would be a problem. They even had a conservation program for their trees, too. Unlike in England where they cut all their shit down and didn't replant, they were actually replanting. They had an actual plan to conserve and grow their forests.
Yeah. And
because they knew that was the product they needed.
You got to keep going.
Yeah, you got to keep it.
So the Ferrari bell tower in Venice has been sinking 1 millimeter a year since its construction in 1440. So it's sunk 24 inches in that time. But the problem is, again, that the bell tower has very heavy weight in a very smaller surface
area. Yeah.
So like the guy said, it's like the Italian.
I wonder how they're
like
solving
a stiletto
that problem.
heel.
Yes, just sinking into the earth.
Actually, I don't know how they've done that.
I don't know.
But what's weird is the wood has not rotted.
Well, no, that's if you go, they debunk the belief that the wood underneath the city doesn't rot because it's in an oxygen-free condition. Bacteria do attack the wood, even in absence of oxygen, but bacteria action is much slower than like a fungi or, insects would be. So they need oxygen, right? So you still have a bacteria, and water fills up the cells that are emptied out by other bacteria, allowing the piles to maintain their shape. So even if the piles are damaged, the whole system of wood, water, and mud is still held together under that intense pressure, and it's just kept resilient for centuries.
Well, and there are places now that are experimenting with new wooden skyscraper construction.
Oh, a skyscraper on top.
Because wood is a carbon sink. It's biodegradable, and thanks to its ductility, it's considered among the most earthquake-resistant materials known to man.
Oh, that's cool. Because it moves with the earth because it is the earth.
Yes.
Nature.
There you go. It don't give a front, but it's also pretty cool.
But it can help us a lot. It does.
So there you go. Venice, sitting on an upside-down forest.
There you go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
It's a shame.
And again, if we ever get to go to Venice.
My son, I haven't been. My son has been. The only thing I would say, judging from my son's description, is it's a shame Venice smells like ass.
Well, there is that.
And apparently the cats really like it. There are cats everywhere.
You better love kitties.
Yes.
Your kitty loves you. She loves your chair.
That's right.
She does a whole lot. The one I had found that was quite interesting that drew me in, we had a lot of rabbit holes, was this new technology that has found lost manuscripts and been able to read them in the outer binding of old books. So they're finding even older documents. And this one is actually an excerpt from Merlin and King Arthur legend, read for the first time after centuries. It's been hidden in another book.
So no eyeballs were on this.
No, they read it completely through the outer binding or through the outer cover. So it's a sequel to the Tale of Merlin. It's been unseen because it's been covered by the binding of an Elizabethan deed registry for nearly 400 years.
So just sitting there.
What a bland topic to put on top of something so intriguing. But they
stop hitting your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I get excited. Okay. It's a book. It's the only surviving fragment of a lost medieval manuscript telling the tale of Merlin and
a tale.
Because it's no, it says the tale.
Well,
you're changing it to a tale because there were multiple.
Yes, okay. And this one is a little different.
It is a little different. It's a little odd, and I don't know. Maybe they thought it was too. Maybe there came a point in culture where this was too weird, and they said, "Fuck it, we don't need this book."
Well, the story's so old that I imagine that they made up all kinds of things.
So Merlin becomes a blind harpist. Why you choose that, I don't know. But I would think that the intensity of the harp leaning against your body, if you were blind, that the feeling would be tremendous.
Anyway,
okay.
Yeah.
He later vanishes into thin air, and then he's going to reappear as a balding child who issues edicts to King Arthur wearing no underwear.
How
and
dare
I don't
he.
know if is that King Arthur was wearing no underwear.
I think the balding
or the balding child is wearing no underwear.
I'm hoping it's the balding child.
Well, I read that, and it was unclear. So if this was ACT prep, we would be clarifying that sentence anyway. So Merlin, he uses his powers. They come from, the son of a woman impregnated by the devil, of course, because, that's the standard story. But the process, right? So for over 400 years, this remnant of a celebrated medieval story is been repurposed as a book cover.
You didn't get to the coolest part.
Oh, I didn't? Did I? Okay.
So
finish for me.
He shows up to Arthur and he asks to bear Arthur's standard.
Yes, take my flag.
On the battlefield. The king agrees, for Merlin will turn up with a handy secret weapon, a magic fire-breathing dragon.
Oh.
So, if you look at the flag of Wales today,
they still have.
They have a dragon.
They have a fire-breathing dragon.
They have a dragon. They
and it's still just mythology.
Is it?
I don't know.
Is it?
Well, we often think about dragons. They seem to be a important part of our culture.
So the fragment itself is 700 years.
Yes. I know. Old French manuscripts, so rare. There are less than 40 surviving copies in the world.
And this one was stitched into the binding of a 16th century
So
register.
they use at Cambridge University Library is where they have this. Researchers at the library digitally capture the most inaccessible parts of the parchment without unfolding or unstitching. So the manuscript, there's no damage to it, and it allows the faded fragments to be virtually unfolded digitally and enhanced and read for the first time in centuries.
That's the cool technology. They're able now to do these thin layers of digital, basically picture taking.
Did they find the Pompeii scrolls too like that?
Yes, they're now doing the Pompeii scrolls, and they're finally, because these things were burned too. They weren't just they weren't just buried. They also got cooked
by the heat,
by the ash.
Yeah. Okay.
Which they always call it volcanic ash. It's little tiny rocks. It's not ash.
Yeah, it's still creepy.
But anyway, I thought the Merlin thing was extremely cool, mainly just because that.
Well, it opens it up
it's written in Old French.
Yes, and they think that's why they probably just ditched it.
Yeah, because nobody was using the language anymore. It was
the shift of the language, and nobody reads this crap anymore. So we're going to move on. We got a new language happening.
Well, we have this perfect material, so we're going to go reuse it.
Well, yeah, recycling is important. When you have very little, recycling is extremely important. So that begs the question then, using this technology should be in every ancient library, in every old library, because you might be able to find much, much more. You will be able to. There's no doubt. If it's been done to one, it's no different than a painter reusing a canvas and having an amazing painting underneath a painting.
I think that
it's the same, artists are artists.
Like the lady who's doing this now, though, because they even look at the book binder. They actually know like book binders from that time by their stitch.
By studying it. Yeah.
Looking at their knots under the microscope. But I like what she said, which was...
They're detectives.
When the guy said, what do you think Elizabethans would make out of all this effort to analyze this fragment? And she says, well, they saw it as a piece of rubbish.
Yeah.
It could never have crossed their minds what we would do to it. The library is full of treasure that needs to be discovered.
Exactly.
So, because they already had the book.
Yeah.
It was just sitting there all this time, and boom, lo and behold, they find this manuscript.
Under there, yes.
But they're now using AI, which is the story that I saw that I thought was extra cool. If you don't know, I don't know if you've heard, but Pompeii was buried by a volcano.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Weird. I know. In AD 79.
Oh, well, that might be the reason that most people don't know.
Anno Domini.
It didn't affect
79.
them. Oh, wait, we shifted topics. I see. Okay.
Yeah, we did. We can go back if you need to.
No, that was all right. I had my last one up, but you go. I don't actually know how long we've been talking today, dear.
We're there. We're getting close.
Are we?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's been enjoyable.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this quite a bit.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad we saved these stories.
Yeah, here's to you. And we didn't even talk about,
Oh, not that other thing. No, it's a free zone.
That's right.
Free zone.
He who would not be named. It's just like Harry Potter.
Oh, there you go.
So in this town that was near Pompeii, which we never talk about, Herculaneum.
Well, did it get destroyed too?
Yeah, it did.
Well, then shocking. We need to talk about them.
But for some reason, we don't give them any credit because,
Pompeii was the big city.
Pompeii was the big place.
Yeah.
Herculaneum was actually where all the rich people had their villas and stuff.
Oh, well, we should have paid more attention to them.
And all these places were burned to a crisp with the advent of the volcano.
The advent of?
Yes.
Okay.
Excavations in the 18th century recovered a bunch of scrolls when they were going through it, and they actually knew who owned the building where these scrolls were stored. It turned out to be Julius Caesar's father-in-law.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool?
What a coincidence.
But the black ink was unreadable on the carbonized papyri, and the scrolls crumbled to pieces when they tried to open them.
So not trying that.
And I don't want to really throw any negativity on this story other than to say these scrolls, once found, they look like turds. I don't know how they knew they were scrolls. I really don't.
Well, a trained eye. I mean, archaeological people.
The breakthrough in reading the ancient material came from a $1 million Vesuvius challenge, a contest launched in 2023 by a computer scientist at the University of Kentucky and some Silicon Valley backers.
Okay.
The competition offered prizes for extracting text from high-resolution CT scans of a scroll taken at a place in England.
Yeah, so it's that Cambridge was where the other story happened, so I'm sure that is the same technology.
And on Monday, and that was couple Mondays ago, I think. Let me see. Let me double check. No, actually, it was last year. Okay, that's fine. Nat Friedman, a U.S. tech executive and founding sponsor of the challenge, announced that a team of 3 computer-savvy students, Yusef Nader in Germany, Luke Ferrator in the U.S., and Julian Schillinger in Switzerland, had won the prize because they were able to take 2,000 Greek letters from the scroll.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so now they're
taking that technology on the road, and they're going to keep discovering things about our past.
And I think that's really cool.
I don't know if it's going to change who we are now or the future.
The first thing they found was the Greek word for purple. How about that?
I wonder what their color purple looked like.
What do you mean?
Well,
it was purple.
Think of all the shades of purple.
It was purple.
Was it eggplant?
They also, along with that, as they continued deciphering it, they actually know of somebody who wrote at that time named Philodemus, and they believe
he was a blogger.
They believe he was the writer because the style is very typical of him.
Yeah.
The scroll discusses sources of pleasure, touching on music and food, particularly capers.
Oh.
And then he also questioned whether the pleasure experienced from a combination of elements owes to the major or minor constituents, the abundance or the scarcity thereof. In the case of food, we do not right away believe things that are scarce to be absolutely more pleasant than those which are abundant, he wrote.
So we don't value the things we don't have a lot of more than the things we do.
Well, think what he's doing. He's using reason to try to determine, do we get more pleasure out of something because it's rare?
Well, you would think that that's how man is. I mean, when you have something, sitting on the field one day after a horrifically long battle, and somebody walks around at hours
gives
in
you
the
a piece
army,
of bread,
a plain white Wonder Bread, nothing on it, and it's
cold outside.
It was the most amazing thing.
Tasted
I'm still
so
talking
good.
about that moment now because it was.
We all do
because it was so. I was so grateful.
And it was so needed. And I hadn't. So, yeah, I think we do value things when we know clearly,
that
when
not.
things are rare, we do give them more value.
Well, I don't know why he didn't see it that way.
Well, he was Roman. He was philosophizing.
Yes, he was sharing a moment. Everybody would have.
So they're digitally unwrapping these scrolls, learning all kinds of cool stuff. They've found letters, property deeds, laundry lists, tax receipts.
Pretty much anything they wrote down that's still around.
And they have now used the same technology for papyrus wrapped around Egyptian mummies. The guy said there are crates and crates and crates of these things.
I'm sure.
And so it's never going to end.
What a cool job, but is it really necessary?
Well, look, the Dead Sea Scrolls, they solved a lot of questions and confirmed a lot that was in the Bible. So, yeah, it is worth
it's
knowing.
Backing up history.
And I think it's important.
I do think it's important.
And I think science is important.
Yes. Now we have to defend that too. Damn.
Well, apparently we do.
Damn. Do we have time to do another archaeological discovery that may or may not be real?
This is the one I didn't even bother with.
You didn't do this one. I thought it was fascinating, paragraph after paragraph. Like, oh my God.
Well, when I heard about it, then I was
thinking,
this smells like the bullshit.
They didn't write a study. It didn't get published. And there's some sketchy, technology questions. Well, basically, and I guess there has to be something to the story. There is a controversial claim that there are massive structures under the pyramids in Egypt, the 3 main pyramids in Giza. Two researchers from Italy and Scotland have claimed that there is a huge underground city 6,500 feet beneath the Giza pyramids, 10 times larger than the pyramids themselves. So what's underneath is bigger than what's on top.
Right.
Who the hell built that?
I don't think it exists.
The claim is based on the use of a pulse radar device. So here's technology again coming to the rescue. Or is it to create high-resolution images deep under, the structures in the same way that sonar would be used to map the ocean? The study has not been reviewed by independent experts. It revealed they say they have 8 vertical cylindrical structures extending over 2,100 feet beneath the pyramid and adding an unknown structure at the depth of 4,000 feet.
4,000 feet. So
the pyramid.
So nearly a mile under the pyramids.
Yes, there's some like structures,
Smells
intentionally
like
built columns or cylinders.
I don't buy it.
It's groundbreaking.
Pictures or it didn't happen.
It's groundbreaking if proven true. It could rewrite the history of ancient Egypt. However, you've always got to have a but. That's a 1T but, not a 2T but. Independent.
You need both.
Well, yeah, you gotta have ass. Independent experts have raised serious concerns about the study. They say that radar
doesn't penetrate in the ground that far.
It can't go. It can't possibly.
Ground penetrating radar doesn't go that deep.
Maybe
I know this.
Hey, maybe they've been doing research and they've come up with a discovery. It happens every day. G-Long.
Nope.
People discover shit.
I would have already known.
Okay.
I would have.
Okay.
I have people.
This is the time I'm going to ignore
my people would have let me know.
Your people. He said the claims of an underground city is a huge exaggeration.
Bullshit. That's what he said.
Huge exaggeration. And instead said...
He must be British because in America would have went, it's bullshit.
He said, he is British. Yeah. It's more conceivable that small structures such as columns and rooms exist beneath the pyramids before they were built. So like a basement.
Well, no, it would have been there first.
They're saying, yes, a basement. You built that first, and then you build the pyramids on top of it. I don't understand why that hadn't been discovered previously.
That's why I think it's bullshit.
Okay.
Because, my God, you talk about a place that's been scoured by archeologists. My God.
This is why I thought the story was fascinating, but I also feel like I've been, bulldozed.
Duped.
Fuddled. Conyers said that the only way to prove the authenticity of the discoveries in quotes,
to dig,
would be to conduct targeted excavations. And my opinion is that as long as the authors aren't making things up and their basic methods are correct, everyone interested in the site should go ahead and take a look at it. It's worth investigation, he says.
Okay.
All right. He said that he can't determine whether their technology actually captured a hidden structure or whatever.
If there's a giant room a mile beneath the pyramids.
Now, that was the Brits and the Americans.
I don't buy it. And I think the Egyptians would be
Egyptian minister of antiquities slammed the claim as utterly baseless.
There you go.
He said, this is not, he says, no, the pyramids and their surrounding lands have been subject to decades of study. Oh, see, just like we said, and excavation by professional archaeologists.
Not that first one.
And no evidence has emerged to support these claims. So they didn't do their proper dues as far as scientists. They did not publish in a reliable scientific journal, and they did not have peer review.
Nope.
So if you hear that there is a massive city underneath the 3 pyramids, lies. It's not true. I don't know how they're going to gain something out of this. I guess they'll do the circuit. Maybe they'll be interviewed and they'll do some podcasts and maybe, go on a talk show or two and spew their BS. And that'll make them some money. So maybe it's worth actually claiming.
You know what we should do? We should we should do a podcast about Ron Wyatt.
Is that the guy that made all those wild archaeological claims?
Yeah, there are still churches that tell their people they believe he's crap.
Then you need to save that for another.
But his name was Ron Wyatt, and it's, by the way, just so you know, I thought this was interesting.
Because you want me to know. I know you want me to know.
Some scrolls were found in Egypt in another location than the Dead Sea Scrolls. So there are people out there now reproducing fake Dead Sea Scrolls.
Of course. Of course. And you can get Jesus'
You know what?
foreskin.
That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about fraud and forgery in paleoanthropology and archaeology.
I think that would be a fine rabbit hole.
The rabbit's going to start digging now.
Then we don't have to have politics next time either.
Yes, we don't have to talk about he who will not be named.
No, we won't talk about the present or future. We'll only talk about the past.
What future?
Oh, gee. No, we're not leaving you like that. We are absolutely
we would not.
Oh, my God, I got a new laptop and my screen is not there. People, your joy is poor.
What happened?
My joy isn't on my screen.
Why not?
Because this is the new laptop you got me.
Oh.
Yes. Because he cares about me.
Yeah, I must, because I had to go through hell to get that.
You did.
I bought a used laptop and then proceeded to have to repair all kinds of crap on it.
Put in a new memory board. Everything.
Yeah, it was
because you didn't want to send it back because all our stuff was.
But it still came out cheaper than buying a new one.
That is worth telling your audience, though. Be aware if you're going to buy something refurbished that you might run the possibility of it installing everything connected to your computer.
Correct.
And then it fails and you can't send it back because you can't get your data off.
You can't get your data off. And by the way, you buy a used laptop, if you can't clean it properly when you get it, then when it connects to your account, it is possible that someone else could get information.
Is connected to your account at that moment.
Yes.
So I do appreciate all you went through for it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, dear.
With those tiny little tools.
Yes.
I have my own little tools.
Your little tools. I appreciate your skills.
Thank you very much.
All right, but I need my screen back, but I still know this. Your joy is portable, and you need to take it with you everywhere you go and share it because Lord knows we all need it right now.
Everybody, carry joy in your heart.
I got that joy.
I got that joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Hey, down in my heart.
All right, Granny, let it go.
All right. Y'all take care. We will see you in 2 weeks. We'll talk at you in 2 weeks.
Something.
We don't see you.
Bye.
But, you could always call.
You could always,
send an email.
I'd see it. Do you like it better without the politics?
Maybe you like it better. Or do you want us to be ugly and talk about politics?
And talk about the current state of affairs?
Since I am a, loony, liberal, lefty hater.
When you get told that in mixed company we can't play the podcast because we don't know what you might say about
Yeah, but I have
figure X.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a problem.
then maybe you can't listen at all.
I don't like self-censorship either.
Well, we're not going to. We don't make.
No, we'll just talk about a different issue.
We don't make no money.
That's right.
We're just here for the honey.
That's right.
Oh.
Y'all take care and do what she said about, taking your joy with you.
Taking your joy out there. I'm going to go in the garden, people. It's spring.
She's going to go play in the dirt.
I love it.
And I'm going to get on my PlayStation 5.
Tell everybody what you're playing.
The Division 2.
The Vision or
no,
Division?
The Division.
The Division.
Yep.
Article adjectives important.
Yep. Basically a lot of shooting. Blowing stuff up.
I take my joy in the garden and you blow things up.
That's right.
Digitally. Okay.
You grow things and I tear them down.
That's it. This is how we survive, people. Enjoy your day.
Enjoy.